Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a bunch more leaks to go over from the latest Battlefield Labs playtest. So yesterday there was a brand new map with new vehicles as well. So they finally had the jets and the helicopters in there, which I am quite excited to talk about. There's a new test range, there's new customization for the weapons and attachments. So we're going to jump into absolutely everything here in a second. But before we do, if you guys do enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure that you are subscribed. Going to be a lot more to come on Battlefield in the future. And as always, thank you guys for the support. Alright, so first things first, this time around we have a brand new map called Capstone. And this is the map here in question from the concept art. Needless to say, guys, I'm not going to be able to show you any leaks. First of all, because they actually nobody really leaked anything on Reddit. I don't think I've seen like a single leak of actual gameplay out in the wild. But I have seen some stuff that people have sent me anonymously, so I wanted to comment on that, and of course we've also seen some very interesting data mining. So this is what the Capstone map looks like. It's the one set in Tajikistan, and as you can see, it's quite linear. It does have a fair few flags here, so I think we've got one more flag than we saw on the battery map in Gibraltar and also on the Abbasid map, which was in Egypt. And clearly, because we've got, you know, stuff like helicopters and jets, it does need to be a little bit bigger. Somebody also did this drawing of the map, which you can tell they didn't want to leak the actual map. It looks like to the north here we have what looks like buildings, and then down south you've got rubble. This actually reminds me of the layout of Gulmud Railway a little bit. So on this map, we've actually seen the first gameplay from air vehicles. Now, nobody's actually leaked this, but somebody did send a little bit my way, and honestly, the sound design, I think, is the one thing I would have to take out of it. The sound of them flying overhead, if you're an infantry soldier on the ground, is kind of mind-blowing, honestly. I don't want to jazz this up too much and make it sound like it's definitely going to be a banger of a Battlefield game, because we're going to have to wait and judge for ourselves when the game finally does release. But I can say that the sound design is absolutely spot on, and they've definitely kept that up with all of the vehicles, not just the noises of them flying overhead, but also the munitions hitting the floor. I've seen like helicopters coming past and doing strafes. It just sounds and looks really, really good. However, the same cannot be said for the flying mechanics for the jets. Now, bear in mind, this is a pre-alpha state for the game. Things are not finished, and I can't really tell because I haven't played it for myself, but from the way that it looks, I would say the jet mechanics have been placeholder and they are just straight ripped from Battlefield 2042. So I do think they're going to change a lot in the future, and I don't think the way they are right now in the test is the way they will necessarily be at launch. So I'm not going to worry too much about that just yet and hope that they do improve. I didn't see any first-person footage of somebody flying a helicopter though, so can't really comment on those mechanics. And somebody over on the BF1 Telegram account, this is the Russian account where they've been doing a lot of data mining and leaking and stuff, they had a couple of interesting tidbits and takeaways themselves. So they say here, when it comes to equipment as they call it, the physics of the equipment is not ideal, but it's not cardboard either. I think this is something getting lost in translation. I believe the word equipment here, what they're referring to is actually vehicles. So what they're saying is that the physics of the vehicles isn't ideal, but it's not like terrible either, and I would agree with that assessment there. For mechanics and guns here, apparently they say there is no suppression. That's interesting. I thought there was very noticeable suppression, or at least some blurring around the side of the screen there, so maybe that's something they've rolled back or toned down. Weapon modifications is more akin to Tarkov. A sketch is included, so I've seen multiple sketches of this. Nobody's actually posted an in-game screenshot, but this is sort of what it looks like here. There are really a lot of attachments, they say, as well. There are a lot of different sights, and we're going to get into weapon attachments and customization a little bit better in a minute. They say that after death, it shows what part of the body was hit. Obviously, this is maybe only going to be for the Battle Royale mode, so that's kind of handy here. If you die, you can see exactly where you took those hits, how much damage was done to you, presumably, as well, and how it ultimately led to your demise. And final little tidbit here, he says, for some reason, I really enjoyed airplanes. After 2042, I forgot what a thrill it is when a fighter flies next to you with a gorgeous sound, scattering traps. I think traps, he means missiles. There's a lot of weird translations in this. In 2042, it was, but somehow not like that. I'm aware, guys, this sounds very, very strange, but I'm going to do my best to interpret this. I think he's basically reiterating what I was saying at the start of the video, that the game just sounds really, really nice and immersive. Now, on the topic of vehicles, here is a rough sketch of what it looks like. So, it does indeed seem that we're going back to the Battlefield 4 vehicle spawn system, where you just click on the HQ, or next to the HQ rather, you have a little box for each individual vehicle, so you don't have to have this thing where you right click like we have in Battlefield 2042 at the moment in order to see which vehicles are available. I really like the BF4 system much better. Like, why should you have to enter some separate menu just to see which vehicles are available? That's just bad design. Now let's shift gears a little bit and actually get some official word from DICE. So they didn't really give this to us freely, but these are from the official patch notes which were posted in the closed Battlefield Labs Discord. These were then of course posted straight to Reddit, so we all got to read what they were, and I'm not going to lie, most of them are pretty boring. They're just bug fixes and DICE overall trying to improve the game, which I think is still a very important thing. It's great to see them fixing so many bugs, at this stage before the game releases instead of afterwards like they did with Battlefield 2042, because Lord knows that game was just like an absolute shambles on release. But I have picked out a few interesting bits here. So first of all, they have improved effects to the capture zone in Conquest. So for anybody who saw some of the earlier leaks from previous playtests, you have this very thick red or blue coloured line around the cap zone for the flags in Conquest mode. A lot of players had feedback that that was a little bit too sort of in your face, and it sounds like they've now toned that down to address that. So they've made several improvements to the end of round matchmaking, which again would suggest that we are just going to be getting a matchmaking system and no server browser, at least for the base game. However, the end of round stay with squad matchmaking feature now apparently is working as intended. That's sort of always been one of those things notoriously through any matchmaking system for Battlefield. You just never really end up with the same squad a lot of the time, and it's never really worked that well. So, I think a lot of players are kind of miffed that we're not going to be seeing a server browser. I think one of the worst things about not having a server browser is that you simply can't jump into that exact map and that exact game mode that you want to play. So it would be nice if they had some way where you could maybe tick a box like, I want to play this map, that map, and the other map, and I want to play it on Conquest, and then you hit matchmake, and then maybe it matchmakes you into a server that fits those criteria. So it's not quite a server browser, but at least you get a little bit of say in the matter. At the very least, they have to be absolutely sure that the same thing doesn't happen as with Battlefield 2042, where you get put in the same map again and again and again. Like yesterday, I was playing Control. I got the same bloody map 3 times in a row. Not even joking. Now, the duration and height of the combat dive are heavily reduced in this test, so we've seen a lot of feedback that movement mechanics in Battlefield 6 seem to be a little bit too fast. Can't say that I really agreed with that analysis, but then again, I haven't played it either, so it looks like DICE are maybe responding somewhat to that feedback here and nerfing at least the combat dive a little bit. And then they also say you can now customize your weapon, and you can now enter the test range through the weapon customization menu. So first of all, I have seen some footage of the test range. Basically, it's kind of similar to Delta Force's test range, only instead of being behind the sort of counter where you shoot from, you can run about all over the test range. It's also kind of funny because whenever you shoot one of the dummies, they actually make the same dying sound effects that the soldiers make, so that's probably like a placeholder thing. But it looks really good. Really happy to hear that that's there. That was of course missing from previous Battlefield games. And the Battlefield 5 test range, I mean, it was just so weird and convoluted, so I'm happy to see that this one is much more simplistic and basic. Also nice to hear that you can enter it straight through the weapon customizations menu. So this is also how it works in Delta Force, and in that game it's really, really nice. You can be kitting out a weapon in the menus, you hit one button on your keyboard, and boom, you're in the test range without having to go through any loading screen at all. So next up, let's take a look at some data mining here from Vanik about the weapon customization. So they didn't have any of the attachments working in the last playtests. Now they do, and people can fully kit out their weapons. We've of course covered what all of those attachments are in previous leak videos, so I'll link that one down below if you guys want to go and check out the details there. But he has listed some of the visible weapon stats that you can see when you're customizing your weapon. So first of all, you've got damage value, you've got rate of fire and magazine size, then you've got control value, a precision value, and then a hipfire value and a mobility value. And then we've got the firing mode, the reload speed, which is displayed in seconds, bullet velocity displayed in meters per second, ADS time in milliseconds, and then the headshot multiplier. So this is exactly the kind of stats, in-depth stats, that I've been wanting from Battlefield for years. I mean, for those of you who remember Simthic back in the day, they used to basically figure out all of these stats through testing, maybe some data mining as well, not exactly sure how they found them, but they would display them all on the website, and that was like the go-to place. Just like in Battlefield 2042 right now, Sorrow's Scribbles, which is basically an incredibly in-depth Excel sheet that Sorrow has put together. That is like my go-to place to look at the actual true values for weapons, because they're simply not displayed in the game. It looks like DICE are going to be changing that big time with Battlefield 6. Now, the system they're going for when putting attachments on the weapon is that each attachment has a certain weight to it, which is measured in points, and you can only have 100 points on a weapon in total. And here are some of the weights for the assault rifle magazine sizes as data mined by Vanik. So for the basic magazine, that is going to cost you 5 points, as well as the compact mag 1. Extended mag 1 is 15, extended mag 2 is 25, fast extended mag 2 is 30, extended mag 3 is 35, and then the fast extended mag 3 is 40. So it seems that depending on your magazine choice, it's not only going to impact how many bullets you have in that magazine, but also the weapon reload timing as well. And so the higher up you go here, the shorter the reload time, the more bullets you're going to have in it, the more you're going to pay in points. I mean, 40 points out of 100 for just a magazine, that is pretty rough. There are also different kinds of ammo that you can equip, so again, here are the weights for those. For Full Metal Jacket, which is surely going to be the default one, we've got 5 points, Tungsten Core is 5 points, Frangible, which I think sort of explode and splinter off in all kinds of directions, those are going to be 20 points, Polymer Case is 10, Hollow Point is 10, and then Ballistic Tip, which is most likely going to be anti-vehicle, is going to be 20. So interesting way of doing things here, instead of the Battlefield 2042 system where, as you know, we've just got 4 different slots and it's very basic. We've also got the plus system. Doesn't seem like the plus system is going to be coming back for BF6. It sounds like they're going to flip that on its head, and you're now going to have more slots than you can really ever equip attachments in. Or if you do equip an attachment in each and every slot, it's probably going to be like some of the worst ones so that you can actually get up to that 100 point score. Of course, there's going to be a lot of balancing and reiterating to do on this system. That 100 point thing is, and indeed all of the scores for each of the attachments as well, that is surely going to be a work in progress, as is everything that we cover in these leaks and data mines. So I'm going to leave it there for today, guys. By all means, leave me your thoughts down below in the comments section. Make sure you're subscribed as well, because I do have a lot more stuff to go over here. It's just that I don't want to make each video like an hour long in length, so it's a little bit more bite-sized and easy to digest. So if that interests you, make sure you are subbed. As always, thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.